Okay, buddy. Welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for taking time and coming on the show. I appreciate it.
For sure.
So, the first thing I wanted to ask you, I see you're part of this huge play, and you're playing the lead, and you took over on the role from Wade. And how did you wind up booking the role?
Yeah, so it's a one person play. I took over all the roles from Wade. I play about 26 characters in the course of the show. And I Wade recently just started in the Broadway musical Water for Elephants, which is amazing, and had to leave this play, so they needed a replacement. And actually, I got it through Willem was potentially looking, who's another drag queen, was looking at potentially doing this, and she wasn't available. So my manager Gina, who works with Willem, actually suggested me for it, and so I went to go see Wade in the show, and I met with Wade and then Donnie, the director and writer, afterwards, and we ended up meeting the next day for like 2 hours. It was like New Year's Eve, and we met for two
Oh, wow.
hours for lunch, and we talked a lot. And it turned out that Johnny's partner, I believe, watched me on Days of Our Lives, and so yeah, it all kind of happened that way, which was cool.
Oh my God! Wow, nice. And is this the first play you've done, or have you done others?
This is my first off-Broadway play, so this is probably the um, I guess biggest kind of production I've done in terms of where theater, the heart of theater in America is in on Broadway, and so I'm just off
Yeah.
Broadway, so just almost there. But yeah, this is probably the biggest theater production I've done. But yeah, I studied theater at school at UCLA, and I did plays in Southern California, and then I've done some other plays recently. I did the musical Grease recently, and then I did The Amazing Drag the Musical, which is another really cool show written by Alaska, who's also from Drag Race. It's a very cool show. They're actually doing a production right now in LA as well. So yeah, this is the first off-Broadway play I've done.
Nice. Well, it seems like you're getting closer and closer to Broadway, right?
I guess it's just across the street, right?
Exactly. And before going into the play, like, did you know a lot about Kenneth and Kate?
I didn't know much. The play was really my first introduction to Kenneth slash Kate. And then I read Donnie actually wrote before Donnie wrote the play. Donnie wrote a kind of a book, kind of all about Kenneth and Kate and her life, kind of. And this play is actually a version of that book. So I was able to read that book, which really helped me kind of like get really in depth and learn more about this really interesting person and their life that they live.
Yeah, definitely. And did you do a lot of research for it?
What's interesting is, some of the research was from the book, and then other research was actually just stuff I've been learning my whole life. I've always been really interested in American history and queer history, and this play really speaks to what it was like to be gay in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and some of the adversities faced by our community, but then also, some of the joy. I didn't know how much drag there really was in America in this time period. People people think of drag as something, I guess, new, but it's not. Drag has been part of our culture for a long time. And, to actually see old photographs
Yeah,
of what drag looked like is really inspiring to me. And, it makes me remember that we belong, which is really cool.
yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know about the play, can you tell us a little bit about it and
Yeah.
the different roles that you play in it?
Yeah, so it's the story of Kenneth slash Kate Marlowe, encompassing really most of their life from, being a teenager in Iowa in the late 30s up until they decided to transition in the 70s, and all of the kind of amazing twists and turns their life took from being a drag queen to a hustler to a burlesque performer to a hairdresser to the movie stars to a well-published and loved author. Kenneth, before she transitioned, was known as, one of the most openly homosexual personalities of the mid 20th century. And it's a time period we don't hear often about. So it's we get to go with me through the journey, and I play not only Kenneth slash Kate, but all of the people that they meet on this journey. And
Oh,
as
oh
a
wow.
yeah, as a genderqueer person myself, it's really important for me to honor some of myself in the play. And the play ends when um Kenneth decides to transition and become Kate.
Mhm.
And that was important for me too, because I think there's and someone, maybe Donnie or someone, will write a part two of the play, which will be Kate's story. But this is mostly the pre-transition kind of story of this life, including being in the army as a gay person and what that was like
Yes.
in the Korean War, and all those kinds of things are all kind of part of the story. And there's music and a little bit of singing and dancing and drag and burlesque. Um, and all of these kind of cool ways that Kenneth used art to express, you know, all the things that were happening. So it's a really there's a lot of interesting things. There's lots of really fun things in the play. Uh there's a lot of fun characters that you get to meet that I get to play along the way, and and some of the adversity too, and the triumph of what it means to overcome that.
Oh wow. And like you play so many different roles on stage. Like was it hard to go from role to role and costume changes and all that stuff?
Yeah, I play about 26 different characters in the
That's a lot.
play. Some of them only have like one or two lines. Some of them is like the police officer walks in and then he walks out. Some of them are very short. Some of them are, pretty substantial. It was hard at first, but once I kind of found out what each of them felt like in my body, and a lot of it is there are costume changes, but the costume changes are more for Kenneth, as Kenneth moves through life and changes, and
Mhm.
starts drag and stuff. Whereas the characters are all just kind of in my body and my voice. So that's kind of fun, just kind of
Oh,
turn into the different characters. And that's a lot of fun to do. It keeps the play really fun for me because I get to kind of explore different kinds of things with each of them every night. And as an actor, it's interesting because you're always working with your scene partner. In this case, a
mhm.
lot of times my scene partner is the audience. There's just times
Yeah.
in the play where I talk to the audience directly, and so every night can feel very different depending on who's in the crowd. As a fun example, there's a section in the play where Kenny's kind of down on his luck and is thinking about what he should do. So he asked the audience, maybe I should get a sugar daddy. Is that what I should do? And usually the audience is like, yeah, go for it. And then one time last week I asked, and this guy said, well, maybe you should go back to church.
What?
So I had to play with that. It's all fun stuff. Yeah, it's a fun thing to do every night for sure.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, you never know what the crowd is gonna say. Like, I mean, when you leave it to them to say something back to you, you never know what they're gonna say.
Yeah, and luckily, in the 13 years I've been doing drag on stage, in New York and around the country, I've heard it all, but not maybe not all of it, but I've heard a lot of things. Oh, here's another fun one. Uh, when I went out to the audience to talk about what it was like watching a movie in that time period. I was like, oh, I had to go sit in the balcony. It was so full, so I actually go into the audience and go like sit with them. And this girl was like looking up videos on her phone during the play, and I was like, oh, this takes place in the 30s, so I didn't really know what to say. And I was like, oh, I didn't know they made movie screens this small. I think you have to put that away. And she said, oh, actually, I have a question for you. And I said, what? She goes, is this you? And she held up a picture of Timothy Chalamet dressed up as Willy Wonka. And I said, oh, no, that's not me. I think it says that that's Timothy Chalamet. And she said, oh.
Oh my God, that's funny.
So you never know what'll happen.
You
Anything can
never know.
happen. It's a wild night.
Exactly. And, and when when you're doing all these different roles like live on stage, I'm sure you're doing a different voice for everybody. And how do you find like the right voice to use for each character?
Well, I'm very lucky because Wade, who originated the role, did a lot of that work for me. And a lot of the voices I do in the play are based on all of the work that Wade did to kind of differentiate and come up with them. And then there's a few that I decided I wanted to do differently. A few of the key characters, I was like, I think my version of these characters are a little different, especially the first two um, kind of sex workers that Kenny meets when he's a teenager in LA. He meets these two trans women whose names are Candy and Duchess. And my versions of them are very different than Wade's versions. And I love Wade's versions. And I was like, mine are based a little bit on a few different people that I know in my life. Yeah, so there's a few different voices I've been using versus what Wade was doing. But, a lot of it I owe to Wade, who really helped kind of shape a lot of the structure of the play. And that's the great thing about taking over for another actor. You can take all of the good things that you liked about their performance and then, make some of it your own. And when Wade saw it, he said, "Oh, I saw you did a lot of cool things that I did, and then a lot of new things." So Wade's like, when I come back to the role, I'm going to take some of your things, and we kind of we build on each other's versions of the story.
Nice. And from Kenneth is a trailblazer, and he's and did you play like all the different parts of his life, from the hairdresser, the author, the call boy, a private in the army? Like, did you play like all the different versions of him?
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of the play too. Is by the end, Kate is a fully realized woman, trans woman living in the 70s. So from being a 20-year-old, male presenting teenager who's also kind of a call boy to a, 40-something-year-old trans woman, it's kind of a lot of different versions of the same person to play as well. So it's fun for me to kind of grow up with Kenneth every night
Yeah.
and grow into, Kate. It's kind of something fun for me to do as well.
Oh yeah, that definitely, like that sounds fun. Like you explore like all of Kenneth, like all the different parts of his life, because Kenneth did a lot in his life, and all that leads to him becoming Kate.
Hmm.
That must be like so awesome, just to do on stage, like to have the the transition from Kenneth to Kate.
Yeah, and I think something that's in the play which is interesting is, being trans always has existed in people's
Hmm.
hearts and minds, but maybe not in language or medicine or culture in the way that it does today. And so Kate was really a forerunner in that creating some of that culture. We talk a bit in the play about Christine Jorgensen, who was kind of famously one of the first people in America to publicly transition. Um,
Okay.
and she was one of the inspirations for Kate. And Kate went on to inspire others, and something we talk about in the play as well is the very famous Tales of the City books and miniseries written
Hmm.
by Armistead Maupin, who began writing those in the 70s. He knew Kate, and Kate was one of the inspirations for Anna Madrigal, who, is a trans woman who was one of the main characters of that play. And sorry, not the play, of those books and TV series and musical. There's many versions of Tales of the
Yeah.
City. But so in the you kind of can start to see the threads of inspiration and culture being built in, the queer community, the trans community, which I think is beautiful because now that leads to, you know, us having amazing people like Laverne Cox on television, having amazing trans actors, trans people in the world is amazing. And to know that Kate was one of the people, she was one of the first people to get her gender legally changed in California in the 70s,
Oh, okay.
which is amazing. And, at that time, they required surgery. You had to get surgery to legally change your gender in the state of California. And she was able to get married This all happens after the
Oh,
events of the play, but these are kind of some of the things that happened for Kate, which, she was a pioneer in that way. And up until that, Kenneth was a pioneer in kind of bringing gay culture to the forefront and wrote a lot about
mhm.
what it was like to be gay in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So for this one human being to have lived through queer culture in such a big way, really throughout history, is so interesting to me. You know, their experience being in the army is heartbreaking and so interesting, and we still see echoes of some of that culture in our the military today. So it's all really
Oh, yeah.
interesting stuff that I love kind of sharing and learning. I've also had amazing interactions with audience members. Kate's doctor, Dr. Fisk, who worked in the Bay Area in the 70s, and helped her transition. One of his former nurses was at the play and didn't know that I was going to talk about Dr. Fisk. And after the play, she said, "Were you talking about Dr. Fisk from the Bay Area?" I was like, "Yeah." She said, "I was one of his nurses, in the
Wow.
80s, when he was still practicing in San Francisco." And it
Yeah.
was really cool to meet her and talk about what he was like. And, he passed, I think maybe 10 years ago or so, but just to know that
Oh,
like this play is like, it's kind of a hidden story that exists in America. And hopefully this experience, will shine a light on that, who this human was and what their life meant. I think it's exciting to do.
yeah. Wow. And what I love about like doing this play now, for the fans to see now, is a lot of people don't know, because now like everything is a little better, like it's more out in the open now. But back then it was really hard, and really hard for someone like Kenneth and Kate. And it's really good to see something like this being made, so that the fans could actually see what it was to to
Yeah,
like
uh,
bad stuff in that era.
yeah, and the echoes still happen today. We talk about in the play too how drag was illegal, and drag queens had to incorporate elements of male clothing into their drag so that they weren't dressing up only as women. And we
Oh,
still see laws against drag queens attempting to be enacted today.
oh, wow.
So to know that like that happened, and it's been happening for, now it'll be 100 years since the events of the play have started. The Kenny was born in 1926, and we're coming up on 2026. And to know that these fights are still happening is in some ways heartbreaking, but also inspiring to know that we've been working towards equality for so long, and we will continue to do so.
Yes, exactly. And what did you love most about doing the play so far, and playing the roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite thing is just that I get to kind of, some nights the play is really, really like fun because the audience is in like a good mood. Maybe it's a Saturday night and they're having some drinks and they're laughing at everything. And when I do the drag, they're like cheering and it becomes like this like big party. But then sometimes,
Nice.
maybe if it's like a matinee, they're really listening intently and they want to like really hear the story. And sometimes I can see them like, at some points cry with me.
Oh,
So there's sometimes it can feel like I'm having just like a party time, and sometimes it can feel like we're having this really important shared communal experience, and sometimes both in one night, or variations of it all. And I think that's really fun for me, is like that the same story can kind of hit a different group of people a different way depending on the day, the time, who the people are. And I think that's kind of the magic of theater, is that when it's a movie, it just is what it is,
yeah.
or a TV thing, but because I'm living and breathing this with the audience that are in the room with me, every show feels a little different, and it's probably the most fun part of it.
Oh, okay, okay. And when when you're on stage, I mean, even when you're in like film and television too,
Mhm.
is it hard to cry on cue? Like how do you? Like, fine, like,
I guess I
because
don't. Yeah, I never actually worry about crying or like making tears in my eyes. I just worry about like telling the truth of the moment. And if the tears come, they come. I guess that's kind of how I've always thought about it. I never like never sitting there like squeezing my eye trying to make something come out. I'm just trying to I'm just trying to be real about what's happening to, me in the moment as the character
yeah,
and feel that. And sometimes it's, very emotional. Sometimes in the emotional scenes I'm more sad, sometimes I'm more angry. It kind of depends on where we've gone together in the play. That's the fun thing too, is people keep coming back because they're like, oh, it's a little different this time, a little different this time. Like,
mhm,
it's the same words, but sometimes it can just feel different depending on, how
okay,
how we're moving through the world that day. So that's it's been really interesting to do that. But yeah, I'm not one of those actors who I guess most actors aren't like sitting there like forcing a tear to come, but it's just, you want to just tell the truth of the moment and see what happens.
yeah. And how did you create Jackie Cox? Like, how did
Sure, my
how did
drag
that happen?
persona. Yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago. So that was, I was in my early 20s, which is also when Kenny started doing drag. So it's interesting to me to see kind of the parallels in our lives. Um, and Jackie was kind of in some ways a reaction to like when I first moved to New York, I was like, do I want to do theater? And I kind of was like, oh, I don't know if I really like this business. The theater at the
Yeah.
time, this was 2010, so like almost 14 years ago. Um,
Okay.
was I felt very commercial. Like it didn't feel like a play like this could have existed. Maybe I just didn't find it. There were people like John Karen Mitchell who were doing kind of things like this kind of downtown, but in like
Hmm.
the off Broadway and the Broadway world, there wasn't as much. It felt like for someone like me, and also I didn't really know who I was at that time. And I kind of found drag, and Jackie Cox has kind of been this amazing force in my life, and I love performing as her. And I get to do my drag now all over the country and all over the world, which is so cool to meet queer people in
Yeah.
different places. And it's something that brings me so much joy. So I'm just so happy that I get to do it. And you'll see little bits of Jackie in this play, but not as much. This is Kenny's story, and there's glimmers of
Yeah.
Jackie,
Yeah.
but it's not a Jackie
All
Cox.
right. And is there a place that you had the most fun being Jackie Cox at? Like, is there like a certain place you had the most fun doing?
You know what? I'm always surprised sometimes by when I go to, maybe smaller towns that
Mhm.
have kind of you're like, oh, I don't know like what this is going to be like. Like I'm in Omaha, or Columbus, like different places I'd never really been to much before, but I end up meeting like really fun people, especially there's so many young people who love drag. Like if it's a
Yeah.
town that's like a great college kind of campus, you see a lot of like younger people, coming in their 20s and, who just love it.
Oh,
It's so
wow.
cool to see that like energy. That's been like really amazing to see and to see how drag is different in every city. So yeah, there's not like one place I love, but Columbus, Ohio is one of those places that I was just so surprised like how gay it was and how much I loved it. Um, that was a really cool place to go. And then, internationally, I've been to cool places like Norway and,
Wow.
Australia, and doing drag in different places has been very cool. I feel very lucky to do that.
Oh, wow. Okay. And doing drag, you have to sing too. And is there a karaoke song that you love to sing the most?
Well, I will say a lot of drag queens don't sing. A lot of drag queens just lip sync, which is amazing. Um,
Yeah,
I sing, I lip sync, I do it all. Karaoke. Well, when I'm at karaoke, I always want everyone to have fun, So I'm singing like George Michael's Faith or something really fun and up tempo, or
that's a great song. I love
Or
that
I'll sing
song.
like Power of Love, or something kind of fun and get people kind of like in a good mood.
Definitely, yeah. And what about like what kind of songs do you like listening to? Like what's on your playlist?
Ooh, that's a good question. My partner Casey, he's kind of in charge of music in our home. So he's always putting on he's a big Swiftie, so I've gotten to love Taylor. And we also listen to he loves like Lana Del Rey, Kelsey Ballerini, like he, if it's a singer songwriter female artist, Casey is always playing that for us. So we do that, and then I do listen to all the pop girlies too. Love Ariana and Beyonce,
Yes.
Gaga, and I love all those girls, and they're always inspiring me too. I'm one of those people who always has like a song in my head too. So when the music's not playing, I always feel like I'm just like singing along to whatever's in my head, which is different depending on the day. Yeah. So, and then in this play too, we get a lot of different music genres, a lot of jazz, some, you know,
Okay.
a little bit of big band, some fun stuff too. And
Oh wow. I That's funny you were saying like how you have a song in your head and you just that's what I do all the time. Like when I'm in work, I just start humming this song and I didn't even hear it and I just start humming it. Like what was the last song that was stuck in your head?
the song that's been in my head a lot is "Sleepy Time," a "Sleepy Time Girl," which is one of the songs that I do a burlesque number to in the play, and it's always in my head, which is a beautiful song. "Sleepy Time Gal." It's a beautiful song. So listen to it. It's an old I do the Dinah Shore version. It's beautiful. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Nice. And I always ask guests this because I'm a really big horror movie fan. Are there any horror films that you like?
I am not a horror movie fan. I get scared way too easily. Way too easily. I mean, I watch the Scream movies, but those are like somewhere between horror and comedy and like
Well, yeah.
meta. But yeah, I get scared so easy.
The Scream movies are really good though. Love I love those films.
Those are
Like
fun.
Drew Barrymore started it with her
She sure
famous
did.
scene at the beginning. And is there any place you love traveling to? Well, I mean, is there any place you haven't traveled to yet that you want to see?
Ooh, a lot of places. People are always like, come to this place. I'm like, I'll go anywhere. I want to see the whole world. I've never been to Africa. I've never been to Asia. There's all
Okay.
places I want to go to. I've been really wanting to go. So, where if anyone's watching this from anywhere, just reach out to my manager and book me. I'll come.
Nice. And what's your fashion sense like? Like, how do you like to dress?
Sure. And my drag fashion sense is very kind of 60s and mod, and then my out of drag is kind of like quirky and I don't know, somewhere between a dad and a cool hipster. I don't know, somewhere in between those two things. Yeah, a dorky dad and a cool hipster, somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
I'm very gay. I dress very gay, which is good. Don't show, I'm wearing a sweatshirt today, but you know.
And what about food? Like, what kind of foods do you like to eat?
All kinds. I mean, my mom is vegetarian, so I grew up eating a lot of different vegetables. So I love, you know, any kind of vegetable I like. I don't eat a lot of meat, but I love all genres of food.
And are you more of a beach person or like a hiking, camping, outdoorsy person?
I'm not an outdoorsy person. I do like the beach, but I'm not an outdoorsy person. I'm a city mouse for sure.
There you go. And do you have like a special drink of choice if you're out like having a dinner or a bar?
Yeah, if I'm at a bar, the easiest drink I order is a Jack and Coke because it sounds like Jackie Cox.
Hmm.
So I tell whoever I'm working with, I'm like, oh yeah, and can after the show I'll have a Jack and Coke, and it's like Jackie Cox, and you won't forget. And then they always
You know
remember.
that's actually really smart. Yeah.
You have to find a drink that sounds like Grue Rume, and we'll see.
I know. I don't think there's any drink that sounds like that, right?
That's on you to figure out.
Yeah. And where could fans go and watch the play at? I know it's till March 24th, right?
Yep. We have a couple weeks left. It's at Playhouse 46, which is right off Broadway on 8th Avenue and 46th Street. And they can go to gorgeousplay.com for tickets. There's, like tickets range from like pretty cheap, like, $40 to, up, but not too expensive. And it's a really fun time. There's no bad seats in the theater. It's a small little theater in
Mhm.
off Broadway. So there's lots of, no matter where you sit, you'll have a great time. Yeah, 7 shows a week, so there's a lot of chances to come. And yeah, gorgeousplay.com for all the info. And then, you can find me on social media across Instagram and wherever at Jackie Cox NYC.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thanks so much for coming on and doing this. I
Thank
appreciate it. Thank
you.
you.
For sure. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Stay gorgeous.
Same.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.